But it's like then the news shows up and I'm like, well, of course I want to be interviewed. So I got interviewed by a couple news stations. It's a very embarrassing interview. I wish you could see the whole thing. I liked your comment after seeing it when you're like, that's the best they could get. And I'm like, yeah, so imagine what the rest was like.
On the news, they're like, we're going to get the reaction from a neighbor that
they say we actually interviewed a witness.
Been watching this unfold throughout the day, and then it's just Spencer going, it was crazy.
It was like straight out of a movie.
And that's it. That's all they showed. They didn't say, like, I figured he'd be like, yeah, well, the cops have been here for a couple hours, trying to get him to come out, but then finally the SWAT team busted open the door,
Well,
like,
I did say that at some point. So here's the problem with the interview.
But it's just that was crazy.
It was crazy. It was like a movie. Hey, let's go. Welcome to the show. It's me, Spencer.
And me, Brandon.
Oh, Brandon, you cutie. You guys don't get to see it. Maybe I'll steal a picture, but Brandon was trying on glasses today, and they're so cute.
Virtual glasses.
He's reached that stage in life where he can pull off glasses and still look dapper as can be.
Yeah, I had my first eye exam of all time yesterday.
Of all time?
Of all time. I don't think I've ever had a proper eye exam that I can recall anyway. But I've had perfect vision up until this point. But as I get older, my vision's starting to go a little bit. But I did notice that my eyes are a little bit blurry. And it turned out that I do have astigmatism in my left eye, which makes things blurry, I guess. Anyway, so I still have actually the vision's fine. It's just the way that the images are refracted in the eye. I get kind of double vision, so I could get some glasses to correct that, or I can walk around with just my right eye open. Because it's already doing apparently it's doing all the work. Right. So anyway, Spencer had me try on a bunch of, or sent me a website that you can virtually try on glasses, and I was doing a fashion show of glasses.
Did you send them to your wife? Did she have any comments if you did?
I'm waiting for her to come home, and and I'll show those to her when she gets home from work in about... pretty soon.
I'm curious as to her opinion of them, because I showed my wife your first pair and she's like, those are so dad glasses. And I was like, yeah, don't you like these ones? She's like, yeah.
Well, okay, so I did first of all choose the dad glasses as like my first choice, because those are like the ones I was thinking of. But then as you were showing me those other things, like I did look pretty good in some of those other thicker rimmed glasses.
You did. Now just imagine a flat brimmed hat with bold square glasses on Brandon,
and then just like a big heavy chain around.
So good. So good.
But anyway, so I might have to wear glasses for when I go to plays and things like that. For far distance viewing is what they're for. But anyway,
don't you need far distance when you're driving?
I mean, 2 car lengths. It's not too far. So like my whole world is falling apart right now, because I've always prided myself on my vision, that I've never had, bad eyes.
Have your siblings do your siblings have glasses?
I had one brother that needs glasses. My dad wears glasses all the time, and then my one brother needed glasses, and that's, as far as I know. I think my oldest brother, who's in his 50s now, he wears readers, but that's just because of age,
Yeah.
But so my eyes are bad, and I always prided myself on my incredibly strong ankles, but I rolled that sucker last summer, and it is still not better. No? It's been months, and so I am now just a broken old man.
Did you
with nothing to live for.
And you didn't get your ankle checked or anything?
No, of course not. I'm a man.
What? I get everything checked.
I rolled it pretty bad, but I was on a backpacking trip, and I was able to finish the hike that we were on, and I backpacked out the next day just fine. But there was quite a bit of bruising and quite a bit of swelling, but I was able to walk on it. It just hurt. It was just achy, and right now, and it just doesn't feel stable anymore. So like if I'm like jumping from rock to rock, I feel like it's gonna slide out from underneath me, or that may just be my own fears now, because it really did hurt pretty good.
No, it could be legit. You could like mess it up.
Things clicking.
Since you didn't get it fixed, you're in trouble.
I know. I have another problem, similar, because I probably tore my rotator cuff skiing one time, and I couldn't raise my arm above my head for over a year, and I never.
I feel like I remember that.
I never went to the doctor for that either. No, it was before. It was when I was between insurances. So I think it was like right when I was starting at the U or something like that, because I didn't have full insurance yet, and and so I didn't go to the doctor at that point, and then I just didn't go because it didn't hurt, but I couldn't. But now I can't throw a baseball without pain. I can throw a football, but not a baseball. I don't know. I don't know what the difference is, but baseball hurts, football doesn't. So anyway,
interesting.
Go to the doctor when you have problems. I guess this is.
I mean, that's what I would say. PSA. You can still be a man and go to the doctor.
You can, yeah. Nobody has to know that you went, other than you and the doctor, I guess. You don't have to tell anybody.
And the world listening to us.
Yeah.
On our podcast.
That's a word of wisdom extra. Go to the doctor if you have a problem. A bonus word of wisdom.
A piece of advice. I wanted to tell you a fun video. I almost sent it to you, as I do send you many reels, and I love it. I didn't send you this one because I wanted to talk about it on our podcast. But do you know where zip codes come from, or like what the whole point of zip codes are?
Well, I know why zip codes exist.
Okay.
Like they tell you exactly where a person lives, because it's like it has a coding for the state, the city, and the area within, like a specific spot within the city. So
you do know. Yeah, it blew my mind. I watched this little video, and it was a commercial from 1963 when zip codes were introduced.
Oh.
And so you've got your 5 numbers, right? Your first number is the state or area. So the country's divided into 10 sections. Okay. And I'll post this on our Instagram at life.lol.podcast if you want to look it up. But so that was exciting to learn. And then the 2 middle numbers, like you said, is the certain area. So then it breaks it down into like city, and bigger cities would have multiple numbers, or like smaller cities would all be clumped into that number.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the 3rd number is, I guess, the 3rd set of numbers is kind of more specific to that 2nd set, which is based off of the post office that it goes to. So each post office has a number within that area, and so that is coordinated.
So there's only one post office serving each zip code?
Oh, that's a great question.
Presumably, I guess.
I guess presumably.
Did you know that my childhood zip code changed? So I don't even know what it is. Like if I do my parents' address, I don't know what zip code to send it to, because it's not the one it was when I was a kid.
So
and that's upsetting.
That I know.
I don't know why.
So sometimes though they add like 4 extra numbers to a zip code, right? Like a dash. 4 numbers that make it more specific. And I don't know what those are for, but I thought this was fascinating. That
Well, I feel like that was kind of a letdown that you introduced those 4 extra letter numbers and you
and I
didn't
don't know
have an and you didn't have an answer because I was getting excited.
should have been
was like,
prepared.
"Ooh, I'm
You
gonna
didn't
find
know.
out." Maybe
4
it's the specific
extra
route
numbers
of
on zip code.
each car or each delivery person.
You're exactly right. A quick Google
true?
search says the last 4 digits represent specific delivery routes within a delivery area.
See,
Wow.
listen to me. I know all of
Brandon
these things.
does know things.
My intuition has never failed me.
No, it's incredible. So what we're looking at here. So like I said, the first number is your national area. The next numbers are the sectional center or large city post office. So that, the bigger area. And then you get to the specific post office, which is those last 2 numbers. And then the last 4, well, okay. So you have like your 88310 and then a dash. So the next 2 numbers are specific street or a large building. And then the side of the street or floor of a large building is the last 2 of those numbers.
Okay. Well, this is probably going to be chalked under retroactively the things you should know section of the Life LOL podcast.
Look at this. I just remembered we can share screens.
Oh. I don't know if we need to go any more deep on this.
Look at this. Look at this. National area.
Yep, you're right. That is
sectional
it
center right here. It's crazy. So anyway, we'll try that out. See. I like the screen share, but anyway, I thought that was mildly interesting because I didn't know. So file that under the stuff everyone should know section.
Everyone should know
of our podcast.
Pull that out at parties.
That's right. Do you know what all the zip code numbers are?
That's a sure, icebreaker with any young lady that you come up against. With.
Well, it's kind of crazy. So, I grew up, I'm a millennial where growing up for the first part of my life, my dad would have a map, pull it out during road trips and find out where we go, right? And then, the next phase or whatever was printing from MapQuest, like all the directions, right? So you'd have papers that would tell you where to go and all that. And then you get into where we are now, where you have the map on your phone and you just put in the coordinates and it sends you, right?
Yeah.
But for some reason, I've never spent the energy, time, or knowledge necessary to learn streets in terms of this. You've got Main Street, and then you've got 1000, and then 2000, because we're in Utah and we have streets that make sense. We're not just names like my wife from California. Where it doesn't make any sense. Yeah, grid system. But and then you go north to south and east to west, and it's up until recently I've started so that's what it means. You got 1800 north and 1300 north. We're at 1600, so that's right where in between.
Never.
I never had to put it together.
You just thought these are random numbers that people.
I just never took the time to be that's when things
if
click
I told
finally.
You a couple of coordinates in Salt Lake before, you wouldn't have been able to think, oh, that's near all this other stuff. Because
no, if you told me now in Salt Lake, I don't know that I could really figure it out because I don't know the land. If you told me Clinton.
Well, this is funny.
Yeah, I know right what that is.
It's funny that you bring this up because yesterday I was on a field trip with my son and his Chinese class, or all the Chinese study students were going on a field trip. So I was on the bus with him, and he's because we're going to Chinatown, it's a strip mall with a Chinese supermarket in it, basically. But it does have a glorious entrance, Chinese entrance, like you would at any Chinatown. But so he's
I didn't even know we had a Chinatown.
Yeah, so
I guess every major city does.
Where's Chinatown? And I was it's on State Street and around, I think it's around 27th or maybe even 30th south, and then he just gives me a blank stare, and I say, do you have any idea where that might be? And he's like, I have no clue. I'm like, he's like, yeah. I was like, well, how would I describe it to you of where it is if you don't know where anything is? And he's like, You have a good point, Dad. I don't know where anything
is. Yeah, and that's where I'm at.
Because unless he's been to someplace that's like right next to it, right? I was like, I mean, it's kind of close to Century 16 theaters, but you have never been there, like.
And then but I tried so now I'm connecting.
Right, and so then I was telling him like, well, you know where State Street is, right? And he's like, no, I don't know what State Street is. Like, okay, well, that's the street that
the main road.
The Shields is on when we go to like Home Depot and Shields. And he's like, oh, so it's by Shields. I'm like, well, it's on the same road, but that road goes
all the way down,
all the way down to the state capitol. And so I was like, so it's between Shields and the state capitol on that road. And he's like,
it's not just the state capitol. State Street's up by me too. Like,
is that the same? It does. I mean, that's a different State Street. It's got to be.
There's different state streets. I thought there was one state street.
It's gotta end somewhere.
The whole state.
I'm gonna go get on State Street and head south as far as I can because I think it.
Well, sometimes roads jump. Like
okay, but I don't think it's. I think that's the State Street of Clinton.
I mean, what do I know? I just barely learned about this whole thing.
Right, but
because I learned in Ogden.
You don't know where anything is.
Ogden, they have Washington Boulevard, and then as you go, you get through presidents, and they put them all in order. And I didn't know that, so you're like, you get Washington, then you go to Adams.
Are they in order?
I'm pretty sure they're in order. I mean, I don't think they name every president, but like they get them
right. So they'll skip the lame presidents,
right? Yeah,
but they're still generally in 1, 2, 6.
That's 10, what I understand.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty cool.
So you get like Monroe and
yeah,
eventually down to Lincoln and
yeah.
But yeah, so it's funny too because on the same subject, we just got a new road that they built that is close to our house that jumps us all the way to like Salt Lake, our main city, but it shaves off like 10 minutes of travel time. So it's super exciting, and it's a part of the world I've never been in. So I always joke with Breathe that it's funny because I feel like I'm on a video game and you've just unlocked a new part of your map, right? So I'm like filling in the black space, and it's just exciting to me. Like, oh my, we're exploring. My map has now expanded. So if you would tell me like, oh, it's by this, I've been to that place and now I connect it and I know.
Yeah.
So.
Well, if you tell me any coordinates in Salt Lake, I can say, oh, that's by. I don't need the thing. I can tell you what's by that area instead of going the other way.
I'm just barely learning all that. It's a skill I've never needed.
I'm teaching my daughter how to drive, right? She's supposed to get her license soon. And I'm like, you're going to need to know. She's like, she's getting in the car and she's going to drive to her friend's house, and she's like, okay, so where do I go? And I'm like, what do you mean? We've driven to your friend's house literally hundreds of times, I feel like. And she's like, do I turn left here? I'm like, yeah, you tell me, like, you need to know where you go. Like, my wife is always astounded that I can drive one place one time and then I know how to get there from then on.
I've got a pretty good skill like that too. Like maybe it's a man thing.
Maybe, I don't know.
Were we born with a sense of direction? Because I can tell you the streets, but I can like, oh, we were here, and I go. Yeah,
I think you turn right here.
This feels like we've gone too far down the street, so I gotta move back.
But anyway, just like, you need to have that sense of where you're at in the city you're in. And that's why I hate driving in new cities, because I have no idea where anything is.
Oh,
and especially if it's a windy city, I don't even know what direction I'm facing most of the time.
There's no mountains, so you have to be like,
mountains.
Wait, the sun has to tell me which way is north, but I can't remember.
When I was down in Mexico, we talked about Mexico last time, but when I was down in Mexico, the sun came up in the ocean and set in the ocean, and so I was very confused.
Yes.
I was like, what direction am I even facing? Because usually it comes up on, an east or a west, east ocean, obviously. But turns out I was facing south. I was on the tip of something, looking out at all the oceans, so it was all just east and west.
Yeah.
And so it was coming up and going down. And I was like, how does this, where am I? Because I couldn't tell.
Yeah. You don't know.
Yeah.
See?
You don't know. Well. Anyway, learn how to get around in your city.
But do you need to know? Because we have phones now. You just put in the address, it tells you where to go.
I know. I feel like
it's like you're gonna let numbers.
your Oh yeah, I don't know phone numbers anymore.
I know my home phone number, and if my parents ever got rid of that phone in an emergency, we're in trouble because I don't know anyone else's phone number.
I didn't even know my own home phone number. So when we had our home phone number, like we had a house phone so that we could call the house.
Like your current house phone
number. My current house I'm living in.
Okay.
Like so that we could call the kids if we need to. Me and Carrie went on a date or something and we needed to call the house. Now the kids have like cell phones or phone watches, and so we can get a hold of somebody, or we can call through our Alexas and things like that. So we decided, we don't need the home phone number anymore. And the guy at Xfinity is like, okay, what was your house number? And I was like, I have no clue. I had zero idea. Like if I needed to call the kids and I didn't have my phone and it was an emergency, like it would have been out of luck. We don't know. I have no idea.
Zero idea. I try so hard to memorize Bree's phone number and I can't get it. It like won't stick in my head because, it's only periodically that I'm like, oh yeah, I should know your phone number. But she knows
Carrie
mine.
Was at the tail end of like when I met Carrie was the tail end of memorizing phone numbers and still needing to put it into like my parents' home phone number or like if I wanted to call her from not a cell phone. And so I have hers memorized, but that's like probably the last one I memorized.
Well, she probably has 801, which helps.
It does help.
Bree has 385, and it isn't.
I just forget about any 385s.
Yeah, I'm like, why are you 385?
We live in the 801, all right?
Yeah, that's right.
It was up north, Davis and Weber County. Are they 801 as well, or were they 435?
We're 801 because it was state, right? Like the whole state was 801, and then eventually we got too many people, and so they added that second.
No, 385 is a third one.
Oh, it's a third one?
Yeah, rural areas was 435.
I didn't even pay attention to 435.
Zip codes, area codes.
Wow, you guys.
So, yeah, there was a 435 forever as well. So there was 801, which is like the metro area, I'm guessing. So like Salt Lake, Provo, and it turns out Ogden and that area. So that whole Salt Lake Valley, Wasatch Front was 801. But I think Tooele is 435. My grandparents down in Delta were 435. So that's then 385 comes along and really just throws a wrench right in the engine.
Well, because it probably doesn't matter now with cell phones. Like they don't care where you live, so it's just where like your number fits in a pecking order. I don't know.
Yeah, when you move to like a new state, you have to change your license plate out.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that with cell phones, right? Like if I got my phone number in California and I move here, it's California phone number until I switch services or something.
No, switch numbers. So you can actually request a certain area code. So when Bree was when I was moving from Verizon to T-Mobile, they said like, oh, do you want to keep your number? Do you want a new number? And Bree's like, yeah, you can actually like pick too. So I was like, I can have Massachusetts be my, area code and stuff. So there's no rules. You can pick whatever you want.
That doesn't make any sense.
We should
I'm a scammer. I'm going to get one from somewhere else.
You could. But we could go get Maine area codes because we love Maine so much.
I do love Maine. Look, I can see it behind you.
That's right.
There. There's Maine.
Which one is it?
Wait, Maine. Oh, it's the top right.
This one. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
White House.
Oh, man. And Massachusetts, actually.
Yeah.
That's both.
It's a fun fact. There you go, everybody. So if you want to go reach out to your service provider, you can update your internet. You can get new area code.
Yeah. You cannot change your zip code willy-nilly.
No.
That is set. So just so to recap, so zip code, the first number is
well, wait, if there's 10 areas
smaller.
If there's 10 areas, though, your first number is going to be 2 digits. So it's like California has 10, 0015. I don't know. Who cares? Nobody cares.
Who cares? Nobody cares about zip
codes. People have turned off this.
You didn't even know about it until just now. No, they probably turned this. This has been a very.
Oh man. Well, speaking of very, I assume you're going to say very exciting podcast. That's what this episode has been. Speaking of very, very exciting, we're going to pivot to something that happened a couple days ago here in my neck of the woods, in my zip code, so to speak. Brandon, we had a 15-car police presence.
Does Clinton City have 15 police cars?
I don't think we do.
So this was an interagency.
It was an interagency, interlocal. I found out. What?
You could have been causing crime like 2 miles away because there would have been no cops there because they were all.
I thought that same thing. You could have been 3 zip codes away.
Yeah, right.
And been like, oh, all the police are summoned here.
They're all gone.
At that zip code, so we better come up here.
All right. Sorry, I derailed you. Go ahead.
No, you're good. 15, so what I found out.
15-car.
What I found out in a lot of these types of things, so like if a fire breaks out at your house, there's procedures in place where they, somebody from the 2 closest cities also come. So it's not just your city that's focusing on one, but and maybe not city, maybe fire station's a better way to put it, but they summon multiple groups to help take care of.
Well, that's how they categorize it, right? You got a 2-alarm fire, a 3-alarm, and a 4-alarm. That's how many firehouses they've called in to help.
But I don't believe there's a minimum. Like there's not a 1-alarm fire or just one station.
Yeah, we don't care about what.
I think everybody. Anyway. So we've suspected for a little while of some nefarious things happening to our next door neighbor ever since I moved in. But to be fair, they've always been like nice. We're not like friends or whatever, but it's one of those typical neighbor things that we're in right now, right? Where it's just like, oh, you're going to your car, like, hey, how's it going? Hi. Oh, I kicked my soccer ball in your backyard. Can I go get it? Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll go get it. I threw a baseball, a football.
Were they the neighbors directly next to you?
Yes, right next to me.
Okay.
So.
Same zip code.
Same zip code.
And area code, presumably.
And there's been interesting things that have happened. Like one summer, a couple summers ago. No, it wasn't a summer. It was a winter. A couple winters ago, they had a trailer that just showed up, like an RV that lived in their driveway for a little while for the whole winter.
And there's a person that would come in and out of it. It wasn't just
2 people
parked there.
Yeah, no, it's 2 people that live, so it's kind of weird. But again, it's been fine. I've been here for 9 years, and there's been no issues. Mm-hmm. Well, come the other day, my mother-in-law was coming over to watch our kid, and she was stopped by a police officer on the way in. It was just like, hey, do you know if those guys are home? And she's like, no, I don't know, but they have this color car. And, when you see it, because she had lived in our house for a little while, so she knew these people as well. So when you see this car, like, then you'll know. And he's like, oh, okay, cool. So he pulls around the corner and just waits. And so, I'm, at home working, doing my thing. And I look out the window and suddenly, a car zooms by and then the cop comes by. They both hop out of their car. The cop's like, police, you're under arrest. Like, surrender. I don't know what he said. But anyway, the guy runs into his house. And I'm like, oh, this is crazy.
So he said, no, thanks. I'm going home.
He's like, oh, I've got to pee. I don't know.
Right. As
you do. So all of a sudden, 12, 15 cop cars show up, lights blazing, and cops hopping out of their car, like, police, open up, and everything. And I'm just like, oh, okay. So I go upstairs. And I'm just like, so look out the window. Do you see what's going on? And there's, everybody who's home gets real excited and wants to start watching. So Fast forward to 1 hour later, the cops are still there trying, like yelling, like come out or whatever. And then we can also see, so it's the next door neighbor, right? So we don't have like a clear view as to their house, but we can see it a little bit. So we see these like cops gathering and they're pulling out like a map. And I'm like, oh, is this cool? Did they pull up the schematics for the house? Like, I don't know how it works in real life. And see one guy on the phone. I look out our backyard and you can see 3 other cop cars that are on the street across the field from us, like with binoculars, like looking in, like if these people hop out their backyard and go running, they're going to get them that way. So it was just crazy. We were surrounded.
When you looked out your window, could you see like all the other houses in your neighborhood, like people like peeking around like curtains and stuff?
I couldn't see the people, but all the blinds were open. Yes. All the blinds were open. And, you know, we like couldn't go outside. I'm sure if we did, the cops were going to tell us to all go in because these cops are in like their full body armor now. And they've got like these big rifles and guns and they're ready because they don't know what's going to go down. Well, fast forward a couple other hours and suddenly this big SWAT car shows up and we're like, it's getting real. Like the SWAT's been called. So this big like tank looking thing pulls up and gets positioned. So it had this long rod on the front of it that it uses to like bash in the door. So then we hear on this big loudspeaker, like, so-and-so, you're under arrest, like come out peacefully or we'll break down the door.
Did they say come out with your hands up?
Yeah, I think so. As memory serves.
Let's say they did, because that makes my day.
I'm pretty sure they did. So and they did it for like 15 minutes, like so-and-so at this address, like you're under arrest and come out with your hands up. And so finally we just hear the engines rev and boom, down the door. And we're like, oh, and now like it swarms. So we've got like SWAT teams on top of roofs.
Did they like, do a rappel in through the window like they do?
I couldn't see. We're right next to the house, so we couldn't see the front. But I was talking to neighbors after who had filmed it, and so I need to get their video. But anyway, we've got a drone that's hovering, like watching, and then the news helicopter is swirling around. And it was like crazy. So after a couple more minutes, after the door was bashed in, the people came out. So there's a couple of people actually in the house and they arrested him, walked him off. And then what's the craziest thing I feel like is not 20 minutes after that whole scene, they're all gone. And it's just like normal. Like nothing has happened except for there's a door that's bashed.
Kids are back in the front yard playing catch.
Yeah, you know. It's crazy. But it's like then the news shows up and I'm like, well, of course I want to be interviewed. So I got interviewed by a couple news stations. It's a very embarrassing interview. I wish you could see the whole thing. I liked your comment after seeing it when you're like, that's the best they could get. And I'm like, yeah, so imagine what the rest was like.
Well, because on the news, they're like, we're going to get the reaction from a neighbor that
they say we actually interviewed a nearby witness.
It's been watching this unfold throughout the day, and then it's just Spencer going, it was crazy.
It was like straight out of a movie.
And that's it. That's all they showed. They didn't say, like, I figured he'd be like, yeah, well, the cops have been here for a couple hours, you know, trying to get him to come out, but then finally the SWAT team busted open the door, you know.
Well, like, I did say that at some point. So here's the problem with the interview.
But it's just that was crazy.
It was crazy. It was like a movie. Well, to be fair, here's what's going to my mind. So the guy's talking to me. He's asking me all these questions. And first of all, you know, you have to know they're next door neighbors. Drug dealers, what we assume, went down. And so, you know, they've had strangers. Like, I don't know what's happening. So they ask me, like, what do you know about these people? And I can understand why the general answer is they were the quiet ones and we thought everything was normal. Because if I say something crazy, who's to say what's going to happen, right? Like, they could be like, come home and be like, hey, remember when you said I was the scum of the earth? Like, no, I never said that. And it's true. Like, you know, I didn't have any negative interactions with them, but that's going through my mind. Like, well, how do I answer this? So I'm like, no, yeah, like we would just wave. And then what's really interesting, and this is another lesson, kids, for you about the news, is then the guy started digging, like, well, tell me about the police. Like, how did they handle themselves? And did they let everyone in the neighborhood know that what was happening? And did they give you an alert to shelter in place and all this kind of stuff? And I'm in my mind like, well, they were great, so I'm not going to give you any like dirt on them. But two, I'm a city council guy, so of course I'm going to probably defend them anyway and support them regardless. And then three, like, nah, it was all good. So I did talk about the police and how good they did and how they showed up in waves, and it was this crazy thing. But that didn't fit the narrative. The only narrative was it was crazy. The lights were flashing,
and I also love that you told me that you mentioned that you were a city councilman, and they just laughed like it wasn't true.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't believe you. Like, no. I'm a city councilman.
Well, I was like, oh, no, I don't know if this is cool or not, but I'm a new city councilman. And then, yeah, the guy was just walked away like, huh. I was like, okay.
Funny story, bro. Oh boy.
So then I went and talked to the police officers, and we were, kind of joking. I was like, see, I didn't know what protocol was. Like, could I come out and hang out with you guys because I am a city councilman? Because Bree kept being like, hey, go out there, like, go talk to him, go see what's going on, like, assert your title. And I'm like, I don't think I have a title in this situation. I'm just a person trapped in their house.
Hey there, I'm city councilman RV. What's going on here? Give me this.
Yeah. Like, what do I need to do? Give me one of those vests, and I better have a gun.
Do you have a bullhorn that I can?
Yeah, I'll take it from here, sir. Come out with this is city councilman Spencer
and your neighbor.
Please come out peacefully. This neighborhood needs you to surrender.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, like, so what now? I guess. Like, what if they come back? I don't know, go on bail and they're living next to you again? Or...
Well, so the guy who got arrested was, he's on no bail. That was part of it. So he had warrants for arrest. With
his wife or girlfriend or who was?
Yeah, so she came back home, and she's, I don't know a ton about it, but she's supposedly clean, and it's, guilty by association. I don't know, but
well, here's
she's fine.
Here's kind of a funny story for you. So I had kind of a similar situation. I probably told you the story before, but when I was in high school, we had a neighbor that was probably about 6 houses down from us. So not right next door, but 6 houses down. Then he was cooking meth in his garage. And we all knew it. And there was a girl that this is all kind of this is a funny part of the story, and then I'll tell you more. But there's a girl that lived across the street from him that me and my friend were hanging out with, and it was our same age. And we had just gotten back from Scone Cutter. You guys don't know what that is. It's a delicious late night food place. So it was like 1 a.m. We had gone and got some delicious spicy fries, and we were just eating them like in the front yard of her house. And we all knew that Russell was a meth maker and drug dealer, and but his mom was the organist at church. So like this old lady that was in her, I don't know how old she was. She seemed really old to me at the time. She was probably 40, but no, no, I don't know. She was probably in her 60s or 70s. She was like 80 something, like old lady. Like it seemed really old. But anyway, we were in her yard, and all of a sudden, like the garage door starts opening, and then Russell comes out, and we're like, oh crap, we gotta, cool it. And then, but the girl we were with, Laura, she yells over and says, don't blow up the whole neighborhood. And me and my friend were like, what did you just do? We start freaking out, and then we see Russell's head pop up, and then he starts casually walking over to us, and we're like, well, that's it. Our Scone Cutter was our last meal. He's gonna pop a cap in us.
Speaking of Scone Cutter, we're now dead.
And we're now dead. But no, he came over and he's like, cooking meth is not as dangerous. They don't blow up. It's not as dangerous as the cops or the media makes it out to be. That they just trying to scare people into like reporting, drug dealers and stuff like that. It's not as dangerous.
So but you just admitted
I only remember this or know those words because my mind was blank the whole time, and because I've been told back that that's what he said. So anyway, but so he was for sure a meth dealer. But then like fast forward a couple months or more, and as we're on the bus leaving the neighborhood to go to school, our whole neighborhood gets flooded with black SUVs, and they took him down in the sting, and they like took the house and everything. But I was like, do they arrest the old lady that lives there, the organist? Because did she know about the meth? I mean, was she old and didn't realize what was happening in her garage? But she didn't ever get arrested as far as I know. And
you didn't get a new organist, or you did?
We didn't. But the house was seized by the cops, but eventually they gave it back to her. So they must have said she doesn't have
that's what it seems like in this case. But what's funny too, when I was talking about the cops, they were like, yeah, we've been trying to get a hold of this guy for X amount of years, and I just think the whole time like, why didn't you come talk to the neighbor?
I mean, he lives there. Why didn't you come to the house? Right. It took you so long to come to his house.
Well, they would come, and I guess they needed a warrant or whatever, and so some events happened that allowed them to finally get it, because there's so much red tape and craziness. But I just thought it was funny, like, you could just text me, I could have told you when he was home. But anyway, it all worked out. It was good. Fine, but it was just crazy to be a part of that. I'll also post the video for those to see. But yeah. Well, sorry, this is a little longer of an episode, so let's end it with Brandon's real words of wisdom.
Oh,
if you're
for all of you that made it to this point in the podcast, I commend you, because we should have started out with the strong material first.
I thought the zip code was interesting.
It was interesting enough to take 20 minutes of us talking about it. So it did take quite a bit of time. So it's interesting, but not as good as this, I don't feel like. But anyway, thanks for sticking with us.
We'll call this episode Just Make It to the End.
Yeah. Just wait for the second half.
Skip the zip code. Fast forward 30 minutes.
That's right. That should be the find out the exact and say this episode. Fast forward to minute number 23. Oh well. Anyway, okay. So as I've mentioned in previous podcasts, I'm a big my word of wisdom this time comes from one of my favorite guys. It's super quotable, and that's Mark Twain.
Ooh, yeah.
You remember what his real name is?
You'll say it and I'll be like, oh yeah, but
Samuel Clemens. Anyway.
Okay.
Anyway,
not Shirley Temple.
Not Shirley Temple, no. But he said this. He said that anger is an acid that can do more harm to the vessel in which it is stored than to anything on which it is poured. I like that he rhymed that, but but anger is an acid that can do more harm to the vessel in which it's stored than anything on which it is poured. And I think there's a lot of those same, not even just anger, but like anxieties and things like that, like things that we're holding in, but we don't need to, that are doing more damage to us than anything else. Like I remember like holding on to, somebody flipped me off once as I was driving, and I didn't think I was in the wrong, but that stuck with me. And there's nothing I can do about being flipped off or anything like that. No. But it was like stuck in my mind. Or I know people that will be anxious about things that they have no control over. And so they're holding on to this.
That's literally anxiety.
That's anxiety. Zero control over it. Can't do anything about it. But sit there and worry about it. And for me personally, I'm able to, I'm pretty pride myself on this, is just kind of like let that sort of stuff go. If I don't have control over it, then I just push it away, Yeah. There's literally nothing I can do about it. then I let it go. But other people can't. And so like anger is the same way. If you're angry or unforgiving for someone, if you're holding on to, sometimes people that you're angry at don't even realize that you're angry at them. Like they have no idea that they've done anything. So they're living their lives free of you think that they're also having a thing, but yeah, it's always going to be worse for you as the person that's holding on to it. And the longer you hold on to it, the worse it gets. So the anger is an acid that can do more harm to the vessel, that's you, in which it's stored, than to anything on which it is poured.
I always like that analogy people use with the backpack and the rocks, right? And you just keep holding on to it, and it's not affecting the other person at all, but you. No. It's just dragging you down and causing this unnecessary burden and weight. Yeah. So,
yeah. Don't hold on to things. Let it go. If you can't do anything about it, and just let it go. Words of wisdom. Yeah.
Right. Well, thanks for listening to this episode of Life.lol. Well, no, let's start over. Thanks for listening to this episode of Life LOL. You can find us on all your podcast apps of choice. We've even just recently got on Amazon Podcasts, so that's exciting. If you listen there, you can find us on Instagram. All those
new Amazon listeners.
You get Amazon Podcast free with your Amazon Prime subscription, so you might as well check it out. You can find us on Instagram at life.lol.podcast. Let us know. There'll be a poll at the end of this episode where you can tell us if you like this video format or not. I have noticed we talk a lot more to each other in the video format than we do. These episodes get longer when we can see each other. But
that's because I just want to keep looking at you. That's
all. I can't see your glasses on, and I can just see those eyes magnified.
Oh, we're gonna get like huge ones.
Coke bottles. Beautiful. Nice. All right. Well, we hope all your dreams come true. I'm Spencer.
I'm Brandon.
See you next time. Okay, bye.